Monument madness. North Carolina deciding to keep 3 Confederate statues just days after protesters toppled the Silent Sam Memorial at the University of North Carolina. Is cleansing our history of the Confederacy okay? Here to weigh in is campusreform.org correspondent Maggie Horzempa. Thank you for joining us this morning, Maggie. We appreciate it. What do you think? I mean, should these statues remain? Should we be erasing history?
Thank you so much for having me. One thing that we cannot condemn is the mob rule that took place Monday night. The protesters that were made up of students, staff, and community members allowed anarchy to rule on our campus. In this country, we have a democratic process, and that is how the statue should have been removed.
And at least 30 cities, U.S. cities, have removed Confederate monuments so far. And specifically to the case that you're talking about in North Carolina, the statue, as far as I understand, had been or has been under constant police surveillance after being vandalized in recent months. You know, it's one of those things you look at and you're like, don't police have more important things they need to be doing other than guarding these statues now because people are out there being so violent against them?
I was just walking to class the other day and I saw 2 police officers still guarding the grounds where Silent Sam is. This is definitely not an issue, as you said, that just affects the University of North Carolina. It's an issue going on all across the country, and the Leadership Institute's campus reform has covered stories like that from campuses like Clemson and Yale.
Look, a lot of people make arguments for reasons why they don't want these statues to exist, why they don't want them displayed out there in public. But don't you think, Maggie, that there's something to be said about learning from our history and not repeating certain things that we've done in our history?
Of course, definitely. I believe that the protesters the other night felt that somehow removing the statue would be able to erase that history like you were talking about. One thing that cannot be ignored is that UNC does have a history regarding the Confederacy and racism. But one thing we can do is we can learn from that history. We can encourage dialogue on campus, free speech, and learn from each other.
What's your message for the protesters?
My message for the protesters would be that they should feel very, very lucky that nobody was injured. There was a great threat to student safety that night, and if they wanted the statue removed, it should have been done lawfully.
You said you were walking on campus the other day when you saw the police officers guarding one of the statues. What have you heard around campus?
Around campus, I've heard from a very vocal minority that people are very happy that the statue is taken down. But I've also heard from just as many people that people feel unbothered by the statue. Those protesters that were there the other day were students, staff, and community members that feel that they should not have to walk past that statue every day.
Maggie Horzempa, thank you so much for your time this morning and your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.